Yo, I'm Tony, come inside of me. Today's podcast is sponsored by Cockblock Corruption Coffee. Don't penetrate me with your tyranny. I just thought of that. Yeah, Cockblock Corruption Coffee, my coffee brand. I'm sponsoring my own podcast because I'm not going to censor me. This podcast is also brought to you by Pump Your Pelvis Against the Patriarchy Swag and all my other swag. Still sponsored by me. Okay. Today's episode is Allow Me to Be Your Psyop Doula. Allow me to deliver information to you that might be slightly overwhelming when we get into the beast, the belly of the beast of what's going on with culture right now. And listen, y'all, I'm here for you. I'm here for you. And I want to tell you a little bit about my own history, not to brag. And I know I've talked about this before. If you haven't ever heard my podcast, you should listen to The Birth of a Conspiracy Theorist. And that's a loaded term, but I bring it up because I want y'all to remember that this information came to me 25 years ago. And when it came to me 25 years ago, I was alone. I was alone. I didn't have the support of community. Yeah, I mean, there was the support of the few people who, I was in cohorts with or having conversations with, some of them documentary filmmakers, one of them my boyfriend who I smoked copious amounts of bong hits with. But you really were alone with this understanding of politics, of Hollywood, of religion. And I mean, let's think even back to Sinead O'Connor talking about the pedophilia in the Catholic Church and how she was treated and how people acted, even though it became clear that 100% that was happening. Like, she wasn't just like, oh, I'm just like making up stuff for shits and gigs. Like, no, she was talking about a very real problem within this religious institution. And just think about how she was treated culturally, right? So there is this massive resistance when it comes to hearing information you do not want to hear. And I think that's the thing we have to just sit with, is that this is information we do not want to hear and we do not want to believe, because it's like once you start pulling the string, the sweater unravels. And the sweater is our faith in institution, our faith in hierarchy, and our faith in having someone lead us. Yeah? We want that. There is a deep, deep, unconscious collective desire to be cared for, to be led, to be told what to do. And if that was not the case, this would not be so effective, y'all. All right, so I don't think we should come at this with this like, I'm better than everyone, I know everything vibe. No, this is about a reckoning of culture, society, humanity, and most importantly, ourselves. Yeah. So this is what I want to dig into. And I want to tell you a story just for the fun of it, because Fergalicious has been in the news. I think her name is Fergie, right? The Duchess of York. That's her name, Fergie. And she has the two daughters, because I met her. And this is why I want to tell you this story, because I think it's relevant, because obviously people are saying that she was like actively trying to sell her daughters to Epstein, and she was involved, and you can go investigate it yourself. But when I was in my early 20s, my mom and I went to this restaurant together. The restaurant was called Nello, and it was on the Upper East Side. Of Manhattan, Upper East Side of Manhattan. And if you don't know the geography of Manhattan very well, the Upper East Side is the breeding ground of the 1%. And not just like any 1%, but lots of like old money is on the Upper East Side. Obviously Soho is expensive. Obviously Tribeca is expensive, but the Upper East Side has like older bones, if you know what I mean. Epstein's home was on the Upper East Side. He was a little east, to be honest. But so Nello, did you hear that? That someone didn't want me talking about this. That just came from my soul. I don't even know what that was about. Again, I could edit this out, but I can't. I just actually physically can't be bothered. All right, so the restaurant Nello was, I think it was between 64th and 63rd or 64th and 65th. Again, I'm telling you these numbers because they're relevant. Like where you lived on the Upper East Side and what your cross streets were was important. So Nello was on Madison Avenue. I don't need to tell you, Madison Avenue, prime real estate. So my mother and I are at this restaurant and it's empty. The only people in the restaurant were Nello and this like younger guy around my age. And they were eating together and my mom and I were eating together. And we were just day drinking, my mom and I, because that's something we felt like doing. Because I think she was visiting. She was visiting New York and we were just like bit bopping around. I think I was in college or maybe just out, all right? So we're day drinking. We're having a late lunch day drinking. And Nello and this younger guy kind of took an interest to me and my mom because we were women, you know? And my mom, she's a hottie, you know? My mom's a hottie. And she's got really stunning hair. She has the hair of a purebred horse, you know? So Nello and this guy come over to talk to us. And we immediately get into an argument, okay? Like, the thing is that when I was living in New York, I was not seduced by wealth because I did not think it was cool. It was not cool. I was much into I was into skaters. I was a skateboarder. I was going into clubs. I don't think at that point, I'd never been to a club with white people before. I'd never been to a club with white people before. I was going to the Club Cheetah with my friends who, because we knew the bouncer and he would let us in with our sneakers on because I did not like to wear high heel shoes. I did not like to wear high heels. I didn't like having to dress up to go to the club, but I loved going dancing and Cheetah was the shit. But there were very few white people there, but that was the club that we would go to. So like, I was not like into white elitist culture. I was into hip hop, you know, I was like, that was my vibe. So it's not like I was in this restaurant with this guy and I was like, oh, you know, how fascinating. I was kind of like, yeah, fucking dork, you white dork. I think that was my vibe. So we get into an argument about Plato and Socrates, and I was a philosophy major. I don't know if you know this about me, but I had studied philosophy. I actually read quite a few of Plato's dialogues in the original Greek, not to brag, but I knew a lot about what I was talking about. And I know that I think rich fucks like to think that they're really educated. And they like to think they know a lot about the classics and they like to know a lot about philosophies and philosophers, but fuck y'all, so do fucking I, you know? So me and this guy Nello who owned the restaurant, we are just going off. We are having a huge argument about, I think it was the Meno, one of Plato's dialogues. We just did not disagree. We did not agree on the meaning. We might have also been talking about the Republic. I think I was ultimately talking about capitalism because that's what I was always yapping about. And the younger guy was kind of witnessing this, and he was a duke of some European country. And that was not lost on me. I was like, a duke, you know? And then the programming conditioning in me was like, oh, a duke, you know? How fascinating. But also he looked like a bird. He was giving toucan vibes, you know, he was not hot by any means. And I was more interested in dirty, hot guys. Not even hot, honestly, I don't like hot men. I don't want a man to ever be more attractive than me because I think it fucks up the power dynamic. I like a guy with a solid body and strong legs and maybe like a snaggletooth, you know, like something a little dirty about him, because then, you know, he's got something to say, that guy. I don't want a guy who's too confident about his looks, you know, like I just can't handle it. I don't want a guy better looking than me, period, hook, line, and sinker. No, I must be the best looking one in the, in the relationship. It makes me feel safe. All right. So I'm sure everyone who's ever dated me is suddenly like, wait, what? Rude. Yeah. I have dated some hot guys, but I guess I just fundamentally think I was hotter. There was one guy who was hotter than me. It didn't go well. He didn't like me enough. The ones that have been hotter than me don't like me enough, and that annoys me because I'm like, you're incorrect. All right. So I get into this fight with Nello, and then finally, I think I ended the conversation by saying, well, it really depends on what version of Socrates you're referring to, because Xenophon paints a very different picture. Mic drop, okay? Because he doesn't even know who fucking Xenophon is. So I'm like, yeah, shut the fuck up. You shut up, Nello. All right. So then the Duke was like, oh, he wasn't British, but I'll just give him a British accent. He's like, oh, I'd like to take you out sometime. You know, you're interesting. And wait, now who am I? You're interesting. Now I'm Austin Powers. Okay, so let's just vision him as Austin Powers. You're an interesting girl. I'd like to take you out sometime. And I was like, okay, because he was a fucking Duke, all right? And I'm a human, and I was curious. So I think I had a boyfriend. Fully was with my boyfriend, but I was like, I'm going out with this Duke because my boyfriend was a DJ who I was financially supporting. Okay, so when you're financially supporting a DJ boyfriend, you're allowed to go out with Dukes. That is the rule, all right? I don't make the rules, I just follow them. So did I tell my boyfriend I was going out with the Duke? It does sound like something I would do. I'm pretty sure I told him, and he was like, that adds up. You know, sometimes you just gotta, this was what was making sense. So I went on a date with the Duke, and he brought me back to Nello, and I was like, I already ate here, my dude, but I was like, okay. And at that dinner was Fergie and her daughters. It was me, the Duke, Fergie. Again, did you hear me almost choke? People don't like people. Who are these people I'm talking about? But it's like, you're not supposed to talk about stuff. So I had dinner with Fergie, her daughters, and this Duke, and like maybe two other people, I can't remember. And it's almost like I was sitting there and I knew how I should behave in order to make these people like me, right? Like it was obvious to me like what I could say or how I should act or what should or shouldn't come out of my mouth. Like I did have a moment of being like, is this my new life? Kind of like I could just be with this Duke, you know? I could just have this Duke love me, and then I would be a Duchess. I'd be a Dookie. I'd be a Duchess, right? You know, I had that like moment of fantasy sitting there for a second. And of course, I was quiet, which you might find that hard to believe. Like, what, bitch, you were quiet? I was quiet. I was sitting there quietly. Was I wearing high heels? No. But I probably put on some makeup. You know, I slapped some makeup on this face. So I had this moment of contemplation of like, can I do this? And then the minute I opened my mouth, it was like, absolutely not. Absolutely not. No, I mean, these people dated me. They hated me by the end of the dinner, without a doubt. But to the Duke's credit, he was still kind of like, this is an odd one. She's a loose cannon and she interests me. Because I just kept questioning. I was, of course, again, talking about capitalism, talking about hierarchy, talking about slavery. I was just going off on what I cared about, you know, but I was like asked to be quiet like multiple times or like talked over. I can't even remember the vibe. I just remember being very disliked, you know? So I was like, okay, this is not for me. But to the Duke's credit, he did ask me out again, you know? And I was like, if I'm not gonna fall into your land, how am I going to date you? You know, it doesn't even make any sense. You know, maybe he was going through like a rebellious phase. Maybe he was trying to break free from something. I do not know. I'll never know. Can't even remember this guy's name. Alex? I can't remember his name. is his name Alex? I don't know. I genuinely don't know. I could be making that up. So long story long, I'm telling you this because I understand the moment of contemplation where you're like, is this the life I'm supposed to be living? And how you would have to make concessions to live that life. And how those concessions are a slippery slope towards abusing children, eating people, drinking blood, yada, yada, yada. Okay, so how did you get here, Tony? Well, this is what the Epstein files are talking about, some very extreme activity. And this is why I want to be your Psyop Doula, is because there is a lot of conversation around how this isn't human. These people aren't human. They're lizards. David Icke he's like the father of the lizard people theory. And I got into David Icke early 2000s and heard, I was like, oh, lizard people. And I think the thing that always just made me uncomfortable was eugenics, was the dehumanizing of Black people, was the dehumanizing of indigenous people, was the dehumanizing of anyone who's not white in white supremacy, is all a function of eugenics. And there's something about the lizard people that is a slippery slope towards eugenics that I'm just like, no. Let's look into it deeper. So I know if you're in the world of the internet, either you're hearing nothing because you're only watching the mainstream news. If you're only watching the mainstream news, 100% you're not listening to this podcast. Or maybe you are. Maybe someone sent it to you, in which case, goddess bless. I'm so happy you're here. But when you start getting into, what people are saying, the way people are rationalizing this type of behavior of the abuse of children specifically is that it's not human. And I want to really dig into this. Okay, so do y'all remember Twin Peaks, the show by David Lynch? I do not think David Lynch was part of the Hollywood machine of pedoland, but I don't know what he was exposed to. I mean, he was a profound person, and he did have a really intense meditation practice. So I would like to believe with my heart, because I am a huge David Lynch fan, that he was not participating in the dark cabal. However, I don't know. But okay, spoiler alert around Twin Peaks, but y'all, it came out in the 90s, so get with it. All right. So, and if you've never seen Twin Peaks, this is still going to be relevant and interesting, so strap in. Twin Peaks was basically a show about a girl in this town in Washington, a small town in Washington, who went missing and was wound up murdered, okay? And it's the investigation of her murder. And because it's David Lynch, if you don't know David Lynch as a filmmaker, he is absolutely banana pants, okay? Like the actors he chooses, the costuming, the language, the acting itself, the aesthetic, everything about a David Lynch movie is giving fever dream, okay? You are not like, it's not an average film, okay? Obviously this was a TV show, not a movie, but like it's a movie. It's a movie that's brought into segments. So they're trying to figure out who murdered Laura Palmer. Y'all hear what's happening to me today? Like, I don't feel like it's random. So this is the thing. Laura Palmer was this like beautiful girl, blonde cheerleader, yada, yada, who had this other life that she was living. And it was a life ultimately, y'all, of sex trafficking. That was her alternative life. And it was all happening at this like almost other dimension, this like building that was almost otherworldly, right? So Laura Palmer's other life that was like taking her away from her cheerleading life was the life of sex trafficking and sex work. But it was more dark than just sex work, which is why I say sex trafficking. Like the energy behind it, the aesthetic, like everything behind it. It's not as if Laura, you did not get the impression of like, oh, she's just like a sex worker and she's thriving her best life. Like, no, there was like something sinister beyond that was happening. And it was otherworldly. Like we have to just remember that the otherworldliness is a part of it, okay? So then basically what you come to find out is Laura Palmer's father had been raping her, and that he was ultimately the person who murdered her. However, the narrative is that Laura Palmer's father was taken over by Bob, who was representative of the devil. And then there is this whole interdimensional world that Cooper, the investigator, goes in trying to find Bob, who has taken over her father. And this interdimensional world is complicated, and there are people talking backwards, and it's so garbledy-gook in the brain that you're like, what the fuck is happening in this other world? Which is kind of what all Twin Peaks season 2 is, just bizarro land. And what I find, and I've always found so interesting about that, is that people would rather think that the devil, like took over this man's body, and then there was a whole parallel universe where people were speaking backwards in red rooms that they were trapped in, than just facing the fact that fathers rape their daughters all the time. It's incredibly common. This is not an anomaly. This is not new. This is common. It happens all the time. But it's so upsetting that it's like the way that David Lynch expresses this horror of the betrayal of one's father, who's supposed to protect their daughter, who's supposed to nurture their daughter, who's supposed to care for their daughter, who's supposed to prioritize their daughter, raping her. So that ultimately, to me, is what Twin Peaks is about. And this is what I feel like we're doing culturally, is we're trying to navigate the deep horror that ritualized abuse of children is actually the water we swim in. It is incredibly common. It could be your father, it could be your stepfather, it could be your brother, it could even be your mother, it could be your neighbor, it could be your babysitter, it could be your older sister's friend and your older brother's friend, all right? And I don't know, I have to tell y'all, I've heard a lot of stories of early childhood abuse, and the thing that I keep hearing is how people didn't tell. They didn't feel like they could tell because they didn't think they would be believed. They didn't have the words. They didn't think they'd be protected. This is the actual thing we need to be reflecting on, beyond the fact that, yes, obviously the politicians engaging in this behavior is problematic, no doubt, but so is your priest engaging in this behavior, and your stepdad, and your brother, and your uncle, and all of these things. And this is why I keep trying to bring it back to the human common conundrum of abuse of children and of each other as we get older. Obviously, you get older, more rapes happen, more abuse happens, more murder happens, more domestic violence, more emotional abuse. I mean, so if the way I kind of see it is that we say the devil, but what we really mean is the energy of trauma that keeps being transposed onto each other as if it is a contagious disease, which it is. And I think the contagion of trauma is what we're kind of personifying as the devil, or we're personifying as lizard people, because that's absolving us of responsibility. Because we're like, oh, if the lizard people are doing it, if the elites are doing it, if Hollywood is doing it, yada, 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 you're separating yourself from the possibility of how you also engage in this behavior. And I do not mean that you're necessarily eating people, eating brains, doing all that. However, we must look at the metaphor of how we consume each other, because we do. How we abuse children, because we do. And it's funny, I see parents, and this isn't to this isn't to shame or blame, but this is just to investigate and to be real with ourselves, right? So I see parents who like are trying to like, oh, I'm gonna let my child have big feelings or something. I'm gonna let my kid feel. I wasn't allowed to feel, so I'm gonna let my kid feel. And then they think, all right, I'm done with the parenting because I'm allowing my kid to feel. It's like, no, you're not. That's a part of like parenting, but also processing feelings in a way that is like actually digesting them is not just allowing or facilitating or witnessing big feelings and then be like, oh, I did it. It's much deeper work than that. It's like, I see kind of parents like, I don't, what's the word? It's like they're letting their children, and they think, and of course we all have these intentions. We have these intentions of like being better or being the change, or, you know, I'm not like shitting on the intentions, but I want to just remind us that children need our guidance, and part of that is like saying no, saying that's not healthy, saying things they don't want to hear, letting them be mad at you, letting some of their big feelings be directed at you specifically, and then unpacking it with them and understanding it. It's not just like, I feel like we're in this, and I'm not trying to be condescending, but we're in this sort of like collective superficial understanding where we're still outsourcing a lot of the internal work that needs to be done because we keep looking out. And that's why we're outsourcing it, right? We need to internalize what is the lesson for us to learn in each consequence, in each scenario, in each thing that we witness, you know? Like I remember like the Johnny Depp and the Amber Heard thing. I mean, I did honestly think it was pretty iconic that she shat in his bed, you know, and I was like, that's exciting. That's out of the ordinary. That to me, that I shifted a timeline when I was like, shit in his bed. You know, I didn't know you could shit in someone's bed like that. But I remember like everyone was so just like looking at it as if they haven't been that relationship before, as if they haven't experienced that level of relationship before, because guaranteed we all have been in the shit bed of Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. But we like to just be like, oh, look at them. They're so like, And I think that energy is the problem. And I see it with these overlords. We don't want to call them the elites because we don't like that language. I understand that. I like overlords, but I don't even know if I like that. 1%. I don't know what we want to fucking call them. We see them with the administration, with the religious leaders. We see it, and then we keep separating ourselves from it. And that is the problem, because this is actually an opportunity for massive self-reflection about how we as a culture consume children, because we do. We do not prioritize children because we are traumatized, and we still don't know how to parent in a way where children are prioritized. And I know we all think we're prioritizing our children, and I'm not like taking myself out of this conversation, like, mind you, okay? Like, I am a parent. I am very, like, actively aware of like where my own brainwashing and where my own conditioning has impacted my child. And every time I clock it, we sit down and I'm like, oh, let's talk about how my brainwashing impacted you, or how my naivete impacted your decisions, or how my naivete impacted what people were in our lives. Like, I am constantly having these conversations because it is important to not like believe that you are outside of the conversation of self-reflection. In fact, you are inside of it. And this is why I want to be your Psyop Doula, because the Psyop is that these files are being released at a time of massive opportunity for self-reflection as we leave the year of the snake and enter into the year of the fire horse. If you're into astrology, Chinese astrology, Western astrology, yada, yada, this is a big time of massive self-reflection in order to evolve as a being. This is not a casual time. And I know like astrology is always like butt fucking and doing so much stuff. Like a lot of times I'm like, Jesus, the astrology is just like, holy moly, finger blast bukkake, reverse cowgirl. My goodness, you know? However, astrology is something that is deeply studied by those who are trying to control us. And astrology is the first science. So if you're not interested in astrology, I suggest you start getting into it, because you know who's interested in astrology? The people that are your leaders. The people that you've given your power over to are into astrology. And it is not random that during this time of massive opportunity, of self-growth, people are looking outside instead of taking this information about a pedo-grapo cannibalistic world and asking themselves, how do I embody this as well? And I'm not saying you're attracted to children. 100% I am not attracted to children. However, the world of pedo is not just about sexual attraction. We know this because grape is not about sex. Grape has never been about sex. Grape is about domination, right? The only people who have graped me are people that I was consensually having sex with. Like, that is so bananas. Like, that is so strange. A boyfriend who drugged me, and then I just told this story if you hadn't heard it, a guy who stealthed me, who took a condom off while I was having consensual sex with him. Like, I was like, not the best sex. He was like kind of boring, TBH. But like that's strange. Like I and my boyfriend, I already had sex with him all the time, and then he drugged me and graped me. So like, obviously the grape is not about sex. It's not about attraction. Like, pedo is much deeper than sex and attraction. I think that's something that we have to wrap our fucking heads around, is that it's around the dehumanizing of children and the domination and the control. And also, okay, this is gonna be controversial, and I just thought of this, and I don't even know if I can say it out loud, but I'm gonna fucking say it out loud, okay, y'all? Because, like, let's just fucking go there. The objectification of children is when we try to make our children the meaning of our lives. Is when we try to make our children the purpose of our lives. We objectify children, we dehumanize children as when we see them as a reflection of ourselves, and their behavior or their action we see as a direct reflection of ourselves. Therefore, we get involved in their successes and we get involved in their failures because we don't like how it reflects on us as parents. That is pedo, because that is objectifying children. Do you get what I'm saying? I understand that is an upsetting thing to say, and that is controversial, and that might sting. It stings. I'm not taking myself out of the conversation. You got to understand, I am not. I'm not saying I'm better than anyone. I'm not saying I'm absolved of this. I am saying this is what we have to look at. Children are not the meaning of our lives. They do not give our lives purpose. They give their lives purpose. They are the meaning of their own lives. They are a reflection of themselves. And what we are here to do for our children is to witness them, to support them, to nurture them, and to share our education as it comes in. We're not here to program them. We're not here to control them. We're not here to teach them. We're there to share our education with them. Do you get what I'm saying? And so I think we got to reconcile the pedo, grapo, cannibalistic energy that we all have towards each other, towards our partners, towards our friendships, towards our parents, towards our children, towards our community, towards our family. And this is a spiritual reconciliation of our own darkness and our own shadow. And this is why I am so rejecting the lizard people conversation, is because it is absolving you of your shadow. It is taking you out of the conversation. And oh, they're lizard people. If they're lizard people, so are you. So am I. So are we. And we're all lizard people that we have to investigate. If they are shapeshifters, then so are you. And so am I, and so are we. Okay? Like, are they cloning people? Actually, I do think they do clone people, but that's a different story. That's a different podcast, yeah? But that's a new conversation. And look, I don't always get into this stuff with y'all because I don't know what y'all are ready for. You know, like, I genuinely don't. And I want to be kind, and I don't want to plant information in people's heads that's going to put them in a state of total psychosis. Like, that does not serve anyone. I try to do my best to contextualize the information that people are receiving versus giving too much information. So once other people start talking about it more, I'm like, okay, now y'all are ready to talk about it. But I learned the hard way that, like, it is not good to talk about things too early to people because they will be upset and they can't synthesize the information. So you got to tell me where you want to go with the information, because I am here for you as your Psyop Doula. But the reason why I'm hopeful, I think a lot of y'all wonder that about me. Like, what's with you? What's with you, girl? Because I do seem like I'm in a good mood. And to be honest, like, I'm not always in a good mood. I do wake up with deep dread. I think I've told you this, but I have a fucking practice, y'all. I practice. I am in a meditative state a lot, and I also am devoted to it. So, P.S., this is a good time to advertise myself. I made a morning practice for you. Get the morning practice. Did I make a podcast about this yet? I can't even remember. I should make a podcast about how capitalism has hijacked your mornings. I'll do that next time. But get the morning practice. I also made a course called Free Your Body for you to get into your body. Look, the morning practice is $13. I make things affordable because I want you to have them, okay? The course is $55. I make it affordable. I want you to have it. It's a 4-week course. It will change your life. I've gotten so much feedback from people that is like, holy moly, it is doing good stuff for them, all right? You have a lot of homework, I'm not gonna lie, but the homework is important, and you will not be the same person after a month if you do this course. I guarantee that, and if you are, I'll give you your money back, no problem. You just tell me I'm exactly the same person. I won't believe you, but I'll give you your money back, all right? I'm joking, kind of. And then what else am I? Oh, and I did a grape somatic. So the grape somatic release is an hour-long somatic practice. And that is also, I just released it. I'm releasing it today. It's like up on the website today. So please, and I think I'm going to make it, does $22 sound fair? I don't know. I like to do the angel numbers because you know me. Okay, so let's get back. All right, I had to sponsor my own podcast again because I don't have sponsors. I don't have sponsors because go figure, no corporation wants to fuck with me. Some mushroom companies do. Oh, there's some exciting mushroom news coming up. I can't wait to tell you all about. But all right, so getting back. Like, I have friends who just don't want. Okay. I have a friend who's a really good friend of mine who I like love dearly. Like, we've been friends since college, and she's just like a badass bitch, but she had kids early. I think her first kid, she was like 23 or something, like young. Maybe 24. I don't know. She had kids young. And I kind of was trying to talk to her about pedo Grapo land, right? I think when she probably had her daughter. I think she had her daughter at this point. And she was like, that's enough. You know, like she was like, no, thank you. And I was like, okay. Because I learned pretty quick I dropped a lot of conversations. If y'all knew how many friends I lost over the moon landing, like actually a decent amount of friends, because I used to do coke, like not all the time, but I did coke. And we would have these parties and I would get coked up and I would just go off on pedo, Grapo, moon landing. I would just, can you imagine me on coke? I actually think I'm a pretty fun time on coke, but you don't want to be talking about what I'm talking about. So like I would have these parties and be going on and people would be like, I'm fucking out of here. I'm fucking out of here, you know, never to return to my parties. So long story long, with my friend, she was definitely like, no, thank you. And I was like, okay, all right. And then she called me the other day and she just like gave me this like really kind feedback where she was like, look, I know you told me this a long time ago. And it's not that I didn't believe you, is that I just did not want to think about that. You know, I just had a daughter. I did not want that. I did not want that, which is like so fucking relatable. And I really appreciated that she said that to me. Like it really I think because the other thing, and I mean, you can tell maybe I'm a little salty, y'all, is because it was really lonely. I got to be real with you. And I think for a lot of like the quote unquote conspiracy people who you will hear on TikTok and like the gram and stuff being like, I fucking told you, is because we really were meant to feel crazy. We were very ostracized. Like you weren't allowed to, like, you know, like,
I'm going to say something really controversial because I'm just like laying some stuff out on the table. You may or may not be ready for this. Like the amount of people that got so mad at me where I was like, your votes don't count. I think energetically it's important that people vote and people participate because I think the participation is valuable. I really think that you participating has value, but our votes don't count. They have not counted. I mean, I'm sorry. I just like, if all the elections are rigged, they've always been rigged. They're rigged. They're rigged. The stock market is rigged. The stock market is fucking rigged. Like right now, the Dow Jones and the S&P and the fuckfest fuckaroony is like, bleh. Like Pam Bondi is like, like she's like literally fucking jerking off to the stock market right now because it's fake, y'all. It's not real. Crypto's not real. None of the, like crypto is not, like you think crypto, again, I'm sorry if I'm copying an attitude. I'm going to try not to cop an attitude. It's not helpful. Okay. But crypto was never for the people to have some sort of alternative economy in order to empower them. No. People even say that crypto was started by Jeffrey Epstein. All right. Not Sashi Yakamoto. I might have said Yakimoto. I don't know. That person was never real. Okay. That person was a construct. And I think they gave him a Japanese name so he would sound more legitimate. Okay. It's probably Epstein. Could be. All right. I'm not saying I know that for a fact, but I'm saying people are saying it. So I'm open to it. The point is that the stock market is completely rigged, just like the elections are rigged, just like crypto is rigged. And so right now in the midst of this cultural revolution, the stock market is booming. Like, okay, they're printing money, you know, it's like, so, but okay, going back to my friend, I felt, and the other like conspiracy theorist, like energy that you're probably getting is that like to be told you're crazy because you're like, y'all, things aren't as they seem, things are kind of darker, yada, yada, is very upsetting and it's very dark, like isolating and it's disheartening. And so now that people are like now talking about it openly, as I think like where I get to it is like so many of my friends who actively denied me to my face, who haven't said, hey, you've been saying this whole time and I did not take you seriously. In fact, I looked down on you. That's the other thing is like a lot of them looked down on me or thought they were smarter than me or better than me or yada, yada. And I was like, okay, you know, and I just had to sit there and swallow it. I had to swallow people thinking they were smarter and better than me because like I thought that the leaders were graping and eating people. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, and they were, and there were secret societies, and there were, and there are, you know? So I think that's the thing is that like how looked down on I was. And that's why like for most of my like public facing career, you know what? I have censored myself a lot. Well, because the apps actively censor me, but they're censoring me when I'm censoring myself, which is comical, right? Because I'm just trying to also like be understood, you know, and that's my own thing to kind of look at. And I'm also not trying to fuel total chaos because I remember how it felt. And I think I have a lot of empathy because I do remember how it felt. But what I'm trying to tell you, and the reason why, oh yeah, I'm hopeful. Okay, so my friend Elise, we had this conversation. Oh, I didn't even tell you her name. Her name's Elise. She's a badass bitch, okay? She's a badass mom. But Elise was like, she really acknowledged that I tried to talk to her about it. And she acknowledged that she just like did not want to hear that. And it felt like so healing in my heart. Like I can't even tell you, like I wanted to cry. Like I really just like felt like so much gratitude for her being like, I see you. And for what it's worth, I believed you, but like also no. And I think like that gave me so much empathy towards like all the people that rejected me because I'm like, right, of course also no. Like it does make me want to cry and y'all know I'm not a crier. But of course also no. It is so painful. It is so painful. But you know what else is really painful? The fact that like so many people I know have been abused as children. So many people I know. It's bizarro. And it's not bizarro. That's what's even worse, you know? It's like you would think I was like some magnet for abused people. I'm not. I just happen to ask people. That's the thing that's really getting to me is like, I don't think that like, I think it's because I ask that I find out. And it's like, it's so many. It's so many. So I don't know. I think that like, as your Psyop Doula, what we really need to do is like reflect on how we parent, reflect on how we treat children as a society, and reflect on the cannibalistic nature that we have in our relationships. And I mean with your spouse, I mean with every person. How are you eating someone's energy? How are you sucking someone's energy? How are you participating in cannibalistic energy? Because we all are. We have to be. These cannibal acts of like brain eating would not be possible if we weren't all entangled in the energy, right? These depraved acts of like sexual abuse would not be possible if we weren't all entangled in the energy. And like that is the opportunity, is for massive self-reflection in order for us to deprogram this energy, because that is how we change. If we think that like, oh, they're lizard people and they're ruling us and what can we do, da 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 da, how disempowering is that? Versus I am part of an energy and I am part of a trauma web. And as I heal my trauma and as I actively am interested and curious in being a part of someone else's trauma healing and hearing them and witnessing them and supporting them and loving them unconditionally, that is the future, y'all. It's not in the fucking conversation that they are different than us. It is in the conversation that we are a collective, and as we collectively heal, we will all evolve. I feel this in the depths of my soul, and that is why I have hope. That is why I'm optimistic. That is why I am a comedian, because I believe that this is the future and our possibility if we commit. And that is the timeline I'm waking up on. And every fucking day, I ask myself to wake up on that timeline. And I ask that for the best possible timeline for myself, for my daughter, for you, for humanity, and for the planet. Because you cannot have your best possible timeline without the best possible timeline for the planet and humanity. You know what? Your best possible timeline is intimately entwined with Donald Trump's best possible timeline. And his best possible timeline is not that he's skipping off into the fields. Is that he reconciles what he's done. You get what I'm saying? Someone's best possible timeline might be very painful for them, the reconciliation of facing one's own shadow, but that is still their best possible timeline, and we must wish that for everyone. You know what I'm saying? And it's not for them to just not have retribution, it's for them to face themselves. And that is what this time is about. So as we enter into the year of the fire horse, which is not casual, this is not horsey. This is not pony. We're not in the year of the pony. We're the year of the horse on fucking fire, y'all. Let's burn our fear of facing our shadow. Okay, I hope that was helpful for you. Please send this to people. Please send it to your friends. I'm just a one human operation here, doing my best. All right, so do what you can to support me. Join the Patreon too. I love you. Thanks for being here. Bye.